Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll rise for our first meeting. Actually, I see our county veterans rep here, Carl Brody, and for that I will ask his wife Irene to lead the pledge. Ready, Irene?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I usually say roll call vote, but it's not the time to say. Roll call.
District number 1, Legislator Cuccinaro.
Present.
District 2, Legislator Oliverio.
Present.
District 4, Legislator Nasarino.
Present.
District 5, Legislator Albano.
Here.
District 6, Legislator Gross.
Present.
District 7, Legislator Castellano.
Present.
District 8, Legislator LeBeau.
Present.
District 9, Legislator DiCarlo. District 3, Chairman Osmer.
Present. Okay. Right now we're going to have a reading of the public notice by the clerk of the legislature, Diane Schoenfeld.
Notice is hereby given that the Putnam County Legislature will hold a public hearing on the state of New York's new basic star school tax relief property tax exemption. The hearing will be held prior to the meeting of the full legislature on September 3rd, 2013, in the historic courthouse located at 44 Gwinnett Avenue, Carmel, New York, at 6 p.m. At that time, a representative from the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance will make a short presentation of the new program's procedures and will be available to answer questions by order of the Putnam County Legislature.
Thank you, Diane. And item 4, the presentation of the State of New York's Basic Star Program procedures. Who would that be here? Sir, would you come forward to the pedestal and...
Whatever's easier for you.
Yeah, might be.
Oh, you have a program? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can everyone hear me? Okay, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is John Wall. I work with the Southern Region of the Office of Real Property Tax Services, which is a division of the Department of Taxation and Finance. I'd also like to introduce Stephen Hartnett, who is the regional manager of the Southern Region, and who does a tremendous amount of work with assessors in Putnam County. Before I begin, I just want to thank the legislature for allowing us time to do this. We hope that this will be helpful in increasing public awareness about this program. There are over 22,600 residents of Putnam County who are receiving the Basic Star exemption. And as you may or may not know, based on an act of the legislature, there is a new program this year where everyone receiving the Basic Star exemption must re-register in order to continue receiving that for 2014. And that's essentially what we're here to talk about this evening. I promise that this will be brief, 10 to 15 minutes tops. Since the legislature has been gracious enough to give us this time, I would just ask folks in the audience, if you have questions that do not pertain to the STAR exemption or something other than that that's real property tax related, please feel free to see us downstairs after the presentation. We will remain on site for a while to deal with any of that, but we don't want to take any more of the legislature's time than we have.
Yes, sir. I just want to establish quickly, you guys are redoing this because it has been abused, the program. Am I correct?
There is a concern over that. That's part of the presentation.
Okay.
But yeah, that's part of the reason why it's being done. We definitely will touch on that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. So again, as I mentioned, this is being done for 2014. Anyone who has the Basic Star now, anyone who's gotten it for 2013, will have to reapply, re-register, renew in order to continue getting this for 2014. This does not affect folks who may have bought a new home and would be applying for the first time for 2014. You will continue to do that through your assessor. It does not affect people who are getting the enhanced STAR exemption, who as a matter of course have had to renew annually and also must apply through their assessor. This program is a little bit different in that this is the first time that recipients of Basic STAR will need to apply directly to the Department of Taxation and Finance. So if you've been getting Basic STAR, you cannot, and I stress that, you cannot do this through your local assessor's office or through the Putnam County Real Property Tax Office. This can only be done through one of two ways, through the Department of Tax and Finance. And we'll get a little more into that. As the legislative chair mentioned, this program is being undertaken because there have been a couple of studies in the past few years. The most recent was one done by the controller, that I think was issued back in February. They reviewed several dozen municipalities, and there is a concern that statewide there may be a fair number of individuals receiving Basic STAR who perhaps shouldn't. And this is no fault of any of local administration. STAR up to this point has been done by local assessors. The application goes to them, but the local assessors don't have any means to check if I as an applicant have perhaps applied in another municipality elsewhere in the state for another home. There is no statewide database. So because of this concern, and as you said very well, this is a statewide registration program that's meant to sort all that out. Everyone, I know everyone in this room, the governor, the state legislature, everyone wants everyone who is eligible to receive STAR to get it. Obviously, it's a great benefit on your school tax bill, and everyone who should be getting it should continue to receive it. However, if there are people who are getting it inappropriately or who are getting more than one exemption, we want to try to eliminate that. So this is some technical stuff which I'm just going to gloss over. Basically, the department identified everyone who's been receiving STAR for 2013, based on the assessment rolls that were filed for 2013. On the basis of that compilation, every recipient of Basic STAR throughout New York State will be receiving a letter giving them information, including a STAR code, to say, look, you need to re-register, here's how you do it, and here's a STAR code that will facilitate your renewal. These letters are being sent out in staggered mailings across the state. It began in mid-August in the central part of the state to coincide with the department's efforts at the state fair. It went to the western part of the state, and now it's moving from the eastern part of the state down south. Putnam County, folks here will not yet have received these letters. However, you should be getting them next week. And for the legislators, amongst the paperwork you're going to see in front of you, there is a sample, a generic copy of what that letter looks like, just for your reference. So again, you should start getting those letters sometime next week. And with that, you will have the information you need to do your renewal. A little more detail. As I mentioned, it's going to contain a STAR code. There are two ways effectively that you can register. One is through the department's website. If you go to the Department of Tax and Finance's homepage, very simple, www.tax.ny.gov. Right on the homepage, there will be a very prominently displayed button that will allow you to go to the registration application. The STAR code that you get on your letter is something that you need to do this, but even if for some reason you do not get a letter, once those mailings have gone out, there is an additional application that allows you to look up that STAR code. So if you misplace the letter or if you just never get it for whatever the reason, you can still do this. There is a way by entering your county, your township, and some very basic pieces of information about your property, your first name, last name, street number, street name, and your zip code. You can look up and ensure your STAR code. And once you have that, you can move directly into registration. I also should point out that there is a phone number that you'll see on the screen. This phone number will also be on the letter that you get. 518-457-2036. If you have any questions at all, you can call that number, and that number will also get you to tax and finance reps in a call center. So if you do not have access to a computer to do this online, or if for some reason you're not comfortable doing that, you can call that number, and there are a bunch of people who will be very happy to assist you in doing this over the phone. So, okay, this pretty much says what I just said. There's online registration. There, you enter the STAR code. You're going to confirm your address information. In addition to that, you're going to need the Social Security number for each owner and each owner's spouse residing at the property, even if that spouse is not an owner. The reason for that is STAR changed about 3 years ago. You may remember that for a long time, STAR did not have an income requirement to it. Anybody could get STAR, basic STAR. About 3 years ago, that was changed so that the combined income of the owners residing at the property and any spouses residing at the property could not be more than $500,000. So this is something, again, it still allows the vast majority of people to get basic STAR, but obviously, I think the feeling of the legislature was that if your income is greater than that, you may not necessarily need a basic STAR exemption. So again, this is information that allows there to be some checking to make sure that no one is getting more than 1 STAR, and it also allows a double check of the income. There's also going to be 2 other questions that are very simple but are equally important. One, for each owner and each owner's spouse, you're going to be asked, is this your primary residence? That's a basic part of the exemption, that you can only get it if this is your primary residence. Similarly, it's also going to ask, are you receiving a residency-based exemption on property you might own out of state? A good example of that is there have been instances of folks who have a property here and have gotten basic STAR, and then they also own a property down in Florida for which they're getting what's known as the homestead exemption out of Florida. Both of these are residency-based exemptions, and of course, one of the tenets of this is that you can only have 1 primary residence. So in a situation like that, such an owner would have to decide, is my primary residence in New York or is it in Florida? So clearly if someone answers, I own a home in such and such a state and I'm getting a residency-based exemption, that's a sign that perhaps they should be getting basic STAR. And while I have yet to encounter a personal situation like this, I did a lot of this at the State Fair last week and over the Labor Day weekend. If someone were to answer yes to that, they would be asked to provide an address for that out-of-state property's location. There's also going to be a question that asks you to confirm you're not giving anything about your income. You're just affirming that the income of the resident owners and the resident spouses is not more than $500,000 for 2012. STAR looks at income from 2 years removed. So for 2014, it's looking at a 2012 income standard. So for 2012, the combined income cannot be more than $500,000. Finally, there's going to be a screen that asks the person filling this out to provide some contact information, which of the owners would be the contact in the event that the department has some additional questions, and you'll be asked to provide a phone number and an email address at which you can be reached. And that's effectively it. You'll submit it. By submitting it, you're essentially attesting that what you put in there is correct, and you'll also get a confirmation number. The confirmation number is important to note because that's your evidence that you completed the registration. In terms of timing, as I mentioned, letters started going out in roughly mid-August. For Putnam and surrounding counties, you should be receiving your letters next week. The registration period runs through the end of this calendar year. So there is plenty of time to do this. Literally, this does not take more than 5 minutes or so to do. 10 minutes if you're taking your time doing it. For those, when we get to around December 1st, when there's only a month left, it's the department's intention to send a second letter to anyone who at that point has not actually submitted their registration. It'll be a simple reminder, look, there's another month in which to do this, please make sure you do it. The deadline, as I mentioned, is the end of the calendar year, December December 31st. And then sometime in the early part of 2014, another letter will be going out to any individual who at that point has not registered. And effectively that'll be saying, look, you didn't register. We don't necessarily know why, but please know that your exemption will be removed as a result. Now, at that point, if someone feels that their exemption is being removed inappropriately, they still will have the ability to contact the department to work that out. By around March 1st, or a little later, which is taxable status date for all of the towns in Putnam County, the assessors will receive a list through a secure portion of the DTF website of those exemptions that will be removed. And they will be directed to remove the exemptions on that list for the forthcoming tentative roll, which will be published throughout Putnam County in each of the 6 towns as of May 1st, 2014. Relative to an appeal, if someone manages to miss that for whatever reason, property owners, again, can file an appeal directly through the Department of Tax and Finance. The important thing here, just as any resident in Putnam County cannot reapply for this through their local assessor, so too, any appeal for a removal of the exemption cannot go through your local Board of Assessment review. They legally cannot hear any grievances about the removal of the basic star. Any such complaint must go through the Department of Tax and Finance. Were that still to be denied, you could file an appeal through a body known as the State Board of Real Property Tax Services. Again, hopefully that would really involve a very, very small number of people. And as I mentioned earlier, in the event you don't receive your letter or it manages to get misplaced, there is an application on the department's website where you can look up your STAR code, and once you have that, you can proceed directly into the registration function. So, all right, this is simply saying there's about 2.6 million folks statewide who get Basic Star. Obviously, we want to do our utmost to ensure, as I said earlier, that everyone who's eligible for it gets it. So what we're doing here this evening is an example of the kind of outreach that we're doing. The department has moved to the state fair. The department's Office of Communications and Public Affairs is doing a lot of outreach to media, different media groups, television, print, and whatnot, to ensure the word gets out. And we will be doing other meetings like this at some of the towns in Putnam County over the coming weeks. Now, I'm sorry, question?
No, finish your program and then we'll go through the questions.
Okay, great, thanks. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you happen to have bought a new home in 2014, or if you've moved, you will be applying directly to your assessor for Basic Star using the traditional paper application. Once again, this registration program is only for folks who have received Basic Star in 2013 on their property and will be in the same property for 2014. If you've moved, if you're going to a new property for 2014, you will have to file a brand new application with your assessor. And once again, if you're getting the Enhanced Star, which is the Star for senior citizens, you will need to renew annually, as you traditionally have through your assessor, or you can sign up for something known as the Income Verification Program, which saves you in some of the paperwork. And that's effectively the end of it. The information, everything we've said this evening, can be found at the department's website, www.tax.ny.gov. You can call that number with any questions. If you'd like to register by phone, you can do that through that number as well. Lisa's been kind enough to hand out what's known as palm cards, which have sort of a summary version of what I've said, including the contact information. So with that, I really can't think of anything else to say. I'll be happy to take any questions.
No, thank you very much. Actually, I'd like to ask a question. I know Legislator LeBou and Legislator Scucciarelli would like to ask a question.
Sure.
But quickly, my question is, because I have the attention span of a parrot sometimes, can this database be combined with the voter registration in New York State? Because there was a recent Supreme Court decision about the Voting Rights Act. And certain states are challenging the Supreme Court now and they're, you know, and they want to have a picture ID, so when people vote, can we tie this in, like, so, because I know in New York State, certain people voted in Florida, and in New York, and in certain other states. Can we combine this?
That's a great question, and the honest answer is I don't know. I know that information the department collects under this program is covered by a confidentiality act, as it appears in tax law. I would really have to go back and ask our counsel whether something like that is even possible legally.
It's basically based on the same premise of home ownership and your primary residence.
Right.
And they find after every election, there's all this fraud and everything else. So if you would check on that, I think it would be a great thing. Legislator LeBeau?
I just want to confirm, so once you enroll in the STAR program with the state, this is for the length of the time that you own your residence, you only do it once, it's not annually.
That is correct. What I will say is the way the legislation was passed, it does allow for the possibility of a statewide registration, but it couldn't happen for a minimum of another 3 years. Now, what will be happening is for anyone who applies newly for STAR in 2014 or a subsequent year, once the department receives the final assessment rolls from every place statewide, they will be reaching out to anyone they have identified as a new recipient of STAR in 2014 and in subsequent years. They will receive some form of communication that asks them to go through this registration process in the same way everyone who has STAR now will be doing this year for 2014. So I'd like to think that if that process is effective, and I don't know why it wouldn't be, that there wouldn't be a compelling reason to have to do this again. But there again, the way the law was passed, they could only do this if someone felt it was really necessary. They would have to wait a minimum of 3 years before undertaking it again.
When was the last time they did this? Have they ever done it before?
No, on a statewide basis, it's never been done. STAR has been around since the late 90s, and up until this year, registration has always been through the local assessor. So it's been a paper application. The assessor puts the exemption on the individual's record for the assessment roll, but there has been no database by which an assessor could check if someone's getting it elsewhere.
Legislator Scucciamara.
Thank you for your presentation. And you answered part of my question that you're going to reach out to the local towns and give the same kind of presentation to the towns. But I'm concerned for the seniors. I know at tax time in our local municipalities are flooded with seniors coming in with their paper. What do I do now? What do I do now? And they're not going to be able to do that. I think it would behoove us to go to the senior centers themselves and either hand out this literature or maybe give a little talk on what they should be doing.
Certainly, if there are meetings within the county that you think it would be valuable for us to attend, we can certainly make arrangements to do that. Thank you.
Very good idea, Barbara. Sam.
Thank you. Very quickly, I went to the website, and about 9-10 counties, there is no code available at all.
Yeah.
And that has panicked a few of my constituents who wanted to do it online very quickly. I had no answer to give them other than, well, they haven't gotten to those counties yet. Is that correct?
That's essentially right.
Yeah.
There are about 6 or 7 counties remaining on the list. With the exception of the city of Geneva, and I don't know what the situation is with the city of Geneva, all of those counties are downstate in the Hudson Valley and further south.
Rockland, Orange, Putnam.
Exactly so. Exactly so. None of those letters have yet been mailed. I would say that since the letters are supposed to be going out for Putnam and many of the mid-Hudson counties, basically everything from Dutchess and Sullivan and Ulster down through Putnam and Rockland next week, all of that information should be available for the lookup next week.
On the website as well?
Yes.
Okay. And just one follow-up
No, go ahead,
question, if
sir.
I can, Mr. Chairman. The enhanced STAR, I'm asked this constantly, what is the age to be entitled to go to that enhanced STAR?
The age in order to get enhanced STAR is 65.
65.
If you have a situation with a married couple or siblings who own a property, one of them has to be 65, the other has to be a minimum of 62. And the other thing here that I'll point out is that if you're a senior and you turn 65 sometime in calendar year 2014, you can still apply for enhanced. Just because you may not be 65 by taxable status date, you can still apply.
Okay.
Quickly, and then we have to end the meeting. You go from county to county with the programs, like what Barbara asked. Do you speak to certain senior centers in different counties you've asked, or?
What we're doing right now is we're trying to lead off with meetings to county legislatures. And from there, we try to take it to towns, various town board meetings, sometimes school board meetings. There again, if we're able to identify with the help of local officials other venues that would be good, we're happy to do it. Because again, we want to try to get the word out to the greatest extent possible.
Actually, Barbara and Sam and my colleagues, would you like to, I mean, can we disseminate this to our senior centers? Would you
Yeah.
like to, would we want to do it to the administration or request?
Well, in my town anyway, our town assessor has already met with the seniors. They're continuing to do that. That's the town of Putnam Valley. Cheryl Long, assessor, she's been pretty good on that. So I
we should
it would
communicate
be
with our
a
towns and
duplication,
respective towns.
basically, the information you're giving out. She has begun to do that.
Well, would we require, how many people are in your staff? Are there a lot of people doing what you're doing tonight, all over the state?
Yeah, we have 4 different regions, and Steve and I have counterparts in those other 4 regions, and yes, these meetings are being done statewide.
We have 4 senior centers, right?
They got the one in Carmel, Putnam Valley,
Yeah.
Cold Spring, and here at the Don Smith campus, 4.
So would it be reasonable to ask?
Win Patterson too.
And we have Kent, I'm going there tonight. Would it be reasonable to ask him to come back 6 times, or should we educate someone on our staff to disseminate the information?
Or go to
And
county
just
board.
to be clear, the message that I think you're trying to convey is that the seniors don't have to go through this registration program. If they're getting the enhanced star, they're doing what they always do, which is
The
reapplying
system's
annually.
not changing.
It's not changing for them.
Right. I think maybe if I
Maybe
could
as a town.
But they have to fill a
suggest-
form out, right, correct? For the-
No, not here. See.
Nothing's changing.
Okay, all right.
If you're getting enhanced star, there has always been a requirement because there is a much lower income threshold, which changes each
Okay,
year
all
based
right,
on
I
cost of
understand.
living. You have to reapply annually. There are 2 ways seniors can do that. One is to bring the paperwork to the assessor each year. The other way is to sign up for a program through the department known as income verification. Short version, by doing that, the department checks on their income and sends information to the assessor to say, yeah, they should still be getting it. And where seniors choose to do that, they no longer have to do the annual trek to the assessor's office to hand in the application.
And that's over age 65.
Exactly.
So, Barbara, are you happy with that, or? Yeah.
Why don't
Go
we
ahead,
have maybe each of us, we represent our respective towns, and we go and speak with our town. I know, like for the town of Carmel, the assessor has done an outreach program already.
Yeah,
But I can
same
speak
with
to
mine.
them directly, and then we can handle it internally. If I find out, or Roger finds out that there's an issue in their town, then we'll schedule it.
Okay,
Okay? I think that's a simple way of handling it.
that's fine, that's
I
fine.
agree with Jeannie. I think there would be effective communication within our town. Chris Walsh is our assessor.
Good.
He does an outstanding job, and I'm sure they will effectively communicate with seniors, and I will work to ensure that he is in touch with all of them. But I don't think it's an issue, and I think it would be burdensome upon you and your staff to come 6 times. I think
Yeah, that's
we can
what I was
handle
trying
it
to figure out.
internally.
We don't have to.
But I'll let you know.
Now, my mom's right down the road, she's 87, she still tells me I'm an idiot, so.
Thank you very much.
But thank you very much.
Thank you very much for
And,
your graciousness in allowing us.
No, that was very clear and very nice. We are now open for public comment on this. Would anyone from the public like to speak? Okay, I would like to make...
Oh, yeah, the gentleman there.
Oh, yes, sir. Come on up to the speaker.
I would like to know what the dollar value is on the
I'm sorry.
The dollar value on the enhanced program.
Okay, the income threshold changes from year to year based on cost of living adjustments. For 2014, the income threshold will be $81,900. What it'll be for 2015, I don't know. But it gets increased each year based on the cost of living adjustments.
Sir, could I just have your name for the record?
Call right now.
Dardone?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, Joe, sure.
What is the percentage of savings for seniors and for, on your property tax?
It's going to vary by town and school district. Typically, I would say the basic star exemption, again, depending on the nature of the school district and the township, it will probably be in the $500, $600, $700 range in terms of a tax dollar reduction on your taxes. For the enhanced star, it's usually in the neighborhood of about double whatever the amount of the basic is. So obviously, if you're getting it, you don't want to lose it.
Right.
Betty?
What's the individual amount? That's a married couple, 819.
Yeah, the 819, it doesn't matter whether it's a married couple or an individual. It's the combined income
That's
of
for the enhanced.
That's for the enhanced. It's the combined income of the owners of record and any spouses residing on the property who may not be owners.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter whether there's 1 or 3 or 4, it's still the 819.
Everyone in the public is good? Legislative? Well, legislative is good? Okay, I'd like to have a motion for adjournment.